Americans seeking to renounce their citizenship are stuck with it now. As many as 30,000 citizens living abroad have been unable to secure a loss of nationality interview during the pandemic. This is incredible. 30,000 people. This is something you need to think about if you're thinking about getting out of your U.S. citizenship. In the article, and this came out in The Guardian, it was talking about in recent years, Michael has come to regard the United States, the nation of which he's been a citizen of all his life, as an abusive parent. Also, folks, if you want to legally get your income taxes to zero, how to get a second passport as quick as 45 days, do 3 things. Hit the subscribe button on the right of your screen right here, and you'll get new videos automatically. And don't forget to hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button. And number 2 is I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, put it below. And number 3 is go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and ask for some help. He went on to say that I could acknowledge my past association with that person, while at the same time wanting to keep future association to a minimum, he said. Now, Michael, as his name is false, as they requested anonymity to avoid being thrown with a lot of hate mail, found this his disaffection with his native country a real crunch point in the year 2000. The chaotic end of the Donald Trump era, combined with the inequities exposed by the coronavirus, made him despair of being an American. He went on to say that the coronavirus made me realize that in the USA, if you're not a member of the moneyed elite, you're left to fend for yourself with virtually no help from the federal government, he said. Now, the presidential campaign, he went on to say, made me realize that I don't want to be a member of a society in which my vote is made irrelevant by gerrymandering or the Electoral College. And so Michael decided to renounce his U.S. citizenship. Now, after he moved to Finland about 10 years ago, he would break his ties that officially bound him to a country whose values he no longer recognized. That's when Michael's troubles really started to begin. He discovered, along with thousands of other U.S. citizens living abroad, he was caught in a quagmire trap. For almost 2 decades since the pandemic stuck in March of 2020, most U.S. consular missions around the world had been suspended their expatriation services for those that are wishing to give up their U.S. citizenship. The U.S. Embassy in London, for an example, the largest of its sort in Western Europe, announces on its website that it's currently unable to accept appointments for loss of nationality applications and is unable to say when those services will resume. The U.S. State Department says giving up citizenship requires a face-to-face interview with a government official, and that's too risky given the coronavirus. That's a bunch of bull. All they got to do is put a piece of glass between the two of you. This is just another way to sap out more tax dollars. They went on to say that delays that have led to a growing mountain of disgruntled citizens. By some calculations, there may be as many as 30,000 people among the 9 million U.S. citizens living abroad who would like to begin the renunciation process but can't. Now, Joshua Grant is one of them. He was born and raised in Selma, Alabama, until he moved to Germany when he was 21 to learn the language. He's been there ever since. He lives in Lower Saxony and married a German citizen last year. Now, Grant feels ready to acquire German citizenship, but under German law, he must let go of his U.S. passport. Now, of course, this is easier said than done. He submitted a pile of paperwork to the U.S. Embassy in July 2020, and of course, nothing's happened. This has been a year and a half ago. He's written emails to the embassy staff with no reply. He contacted the office of U.S. Senator from Alabama, Richard Shelby. They passed him on to the State Department, which in turn passed him on back to the Bureau of Consular Affairs, which mentioned the pandemic. It's very taxing. My whole life, he stated, in Germany's on hold. He said, it's funny, people in Germany tend to see the U.S. as a liberal country, which it is, where the rule of law was established, but I can't even find anyone in the U.S. Government to talk to. Now, 9 U.S. citizens abroad who found themselves unable to give up their nationality are now suing the government in the federal court in Washington. The suit brought on by the plaintiffs' behalf by the French-based group association called Association of Accidental Americans likens the situation of a feudal times. Now, the U.S. appears, they want to say here, intent on preventing its citizens from exercising their natural and fundamental right to voluntarily renounce their citizenship, it says. Some people want to give up the U.S. citizenship because the government has been making the burden of being an American more erroneous for those abroad. Now, in 2010, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, also called FATCA, was passed, requiring foreign banks and other financial institutions to report on any clients they suspect of being Americans to the IRS. Now, the U.S. is also one of the only two countries, the other one, Entria, that taxes people on their citizenship rather than just where they live. That forces Americans to, that are abroad to declare their global income to the IRS with possible tax implications. Now, the impact of these burdens is reflected in the number of people who renounce each year. Between 2000 and 2010, it remained relatively steady at less than 1,000 people. But after FATCA came in, the numbers rose sharply to a peak last year of around 7,000 people. Now, some of the would-be renouncers are accidental Americans having acquired citizenship because they were born in the U.S., though they have lived elsewhere all their lives. This is incredible. I mean, that label could be applied to the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who was born in New York but has lived in the U.S., but has not lived in the U.S. since he was 5 years old. Now, Johnson renounced his citizenship in 2017, having said that he was outraged a few years earlier by having to pay U.S. tax authorities for gains on his sale of his home in London. Now, Maria Sack, the first woman to stand as a presidential candidate in Gambia, was forced to pull out of the race recently after he failed to get any response to her request to renounce U.S. nationality from the U.S. Embassy. She explained in a video posted on Facebook that under Gambian election law, presidential candidates must be sole Gambian nationals. Now, James, not his real name, was born in Texas, but he hasn't lived in the U.S. since he was 4 years old. He now lives in Singapore. He became disillusioned when he learned that because his son was born outside the U.S., he would not be eligible for U.S. citizenship, and yet because of James's citizenship, he would be treated as if he were a U.S. taxpayer. That stuck him as a modern form of taxation without representation. Now, the double standards really annoy me. He said for the past year he's been trying to get through to an official who will, just help him renounce his citizenship without any success. He went on to say that I've never asked for U.S. citizenship, and now I'm not even allowed to give it up. I mean, this is incredible. Anyway, folks, if you want to learn more on this, go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com. Hit the top bar that says Apply with Us. Fill out the questions. Hit that bottom bar that says Send it to us. We deal with over 100 citizenship by investment, residency by investment countries all over the world. And don't forget, hit that notification bell and the subscribe button on the right of your screen right here, and you get new videos automatically as they come out. And I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, just put it below, and I'll look forward to talking to you on the next video. Take care.